Number 33 is understanding the Jewish misconception about Chasidim. There's a big misconception of Chasidim. Some people hate Chasidim, some people love Chasidim, some people say Chasidim are so holy, some say they're so unholy. What's the whole thing of Chasidim? And it's an area of Judaism that I think is so unexplained. We want to try to give a very little thing on Chasidim. Where do Chasidim originate? First of all, there's the term Chasid come from the word Chesed, which is Avram was the first man of Chesed. Avram was a Chasid. Chasid, first of all, you have to be clear in your mind that has nothing to do with payas and has nothing to do with the shtreimel, has nothing to do with the long, big coat, black, and the white socks and speaking Yiddish. That those are what is the symbol of Hasidim today, but it didn't start like that. Originally, we have in the Gemara speak about Hasidim Rishonim. Hasidim Rishonim were the people who were extremely pious. They would pray 9 hours a day. They will meditate. They will connect to God on the level of spirituality that was beyond what was required of them. A Hasid is someone who is so passionate about God. He speaks all the time about God. Everything he does, even the physical, is all connected to God. There's a tremendous love, passion for his Jewish life and connection with God. So that's what a Chassid is at the beginning. Then came the Baal Shem Tov about 300 years ago, and the Baal Shem Tov realized that we were living. People were not connected to God. There was no deep connection. You had only those who were very righteous, the ones who could attend to yeshiva to learn the wisdom, and then you had those who were completely uneducated and Jews who didn't know even the letter of the alphabet and were completely disconnected from God. And the Baal Shem Tov understood that we have to bring back the fire of Judaism. We have to bring back the understanding that our connection with God doesn't depend on our amount of knowledge. It depends on our heart, on how much we show God that we love Him. Not just the heart. We have to do actions. How much we show God, but you don't have to be a Talmid Chacham, you don't have to be a giant in Torah in order to have a deep connection with God. That was Chasidim, that was the message of Baal Shem Tov. He came and said, you farmer, you don't know anything, but you can serve God by taking care of your ground and praying to God when you plant your seeds, and you can have the highest level of faith, and you can be as great as a Rosh Yeshiva, as someone in the yeshiva, a big rabbi who learns all day, because your connection with God is through the ground, and your faith will be as pure as the one who learns Torah all day. So what happens is that the Baal Shem Tov's message was so powerful that people started coming, very religious and also non-religious at all, and people started coming and created groups, and they had different big rabbis that followed the Baal Shem Tov who spread that message, and each one spread that message in their own way. And there are many ways to show what God we love. Some people, they show God they love Him through tremendous passion in prayer, some by singing, some by being very silent meditation, some by jumping, screaming. There are different ways within the halakha, within the mitzvahs, we can show God. And those groups, where each group had a different way to show God they love Him, and they will do more than what the Torah asks for. So, for example, one of the things is the payas. The payas is just this: you just need to have hair here. Can't shave it completely. So the Hasidim, one of the way the Hasidim decide to show that they want to do more, they're more connected to God, is that they let this part grow longer. Why? This is a very Kabbalistic explanation. We'll speak about it later. But basically, this represents judgment, and the Hasidim say, I want to take more judgment upon myself. I want this to make this longer to show God I'm ready to do more, to be more strict on myself, to do more, be more zealous, and show you how much I love each one of your commandments. That's one of the reasons for the PS. So originally, Chasidim has nothing to do with the clothes. Each Chasid will connect himself to a big rabbi that was very holy, very in love with God, very spiritual, very connected, and they will learn from him to find their own path to connect to God with passion, and they will work very hard on this love. What happened is that because the Chasidim became very numerous, they don't have so many holy rabbis or holy rebbes, so not so many Baal Shem Tov. It started spreading. They started having many different branches of Chasidim, and each one different itself by their actions, by their dress. One was a little bit like that, one was a bit like that, with a belt or whatever, and the problem is that when you have one big Rebbe and thousands Hasidim, thousands of students, you can't spiritually elevate the students, but the students can miss that connection. They might not be able to connect to the Rebbe. And what happens is that you have the few people who are close to the Rebbe, to the big rabbi who directs and inspires them. Those are connected and they kind of do the things well. But the other ones who have no connection, they don't have guidance, and they end up doing things without knowing why. And they start doing payas just because that's what everybody does. And they're starting praying out loud because that's what everybody does. And they start learning the different qualities of what a real chassid is. And now we end up today with thousands and thousands of chassidim, many of them who have no idea why they are doing this, because they were born and like that. So when you're born like that, so you wear the white socks because that's what everybody does. You wear the streimel or you have payas because that's what everybody does. It has nothing to do with an expression of love with God, and they completely disconnect from the rabbis, and they don't learn the qualities of refinement that you're supposed to have for other people, because they don't see it from the rabbi, the Rebbe. And therefore, what's happening is that as a consequence of that, you have a lot of Hasidim who look like Hasidim in the garment, but inside they are dead. They're not. They don't feel the love. They don't feel connected. They don't understand why they're doing. They were not taught how to be righteous, like their clothing are supposed to represent, and we end up with a lot of people hating or being upset at Hasidim who don't behave on the level of what a Chassid is supposed to be, which with love, with righteousness, with passion, with refinement. So we have to understand both sides. There is a side of Hasidim which is great, and you can meet many Hasidim who are very holy, but you're going to meet many Hasidim who are completely disconnected from that, and therefore are not holy and righteous people because they were not taught the right way. It's really Hasidim that are ignorant, but we have to understand the roots of the problem and learn to not hate Hasidim or excuse them for the ignorance. Everyone obviously has to learn to know what he's doing, but sometimes when you're in a shtetl, when you're closed-minded because you're not exposed to the rest of the world, then you don't know better. And that's the last point I want to finish with, is that the Hasidim have originally were not disconnected from the world. On the contrary, they will go to all. Every Hasid was supposed to love every Jew that is not religious, every non-Jew. He had a tremendous respect. Non-Jews were respected big rebbes very much. They were in awe of them. What happened is that Hasidim, sometimes they go restrict themselves in order to stay very holy. They disconnect themselves from the physical world very much, and this can be very destructive, because the purpose of the Jew is to be in the world and elevate the world. Not everybody. Some are supposed to be insulated and to stay pure and have a clarity, but that's not necessarily the highest level. But because of the Hasidim being very often very strict on themselves to be very holy, they cut themselves from the world, and people think that they look down on the, well, actually some do look down on the physical world because they're, so to speak, scared to deal with the outside world. They were not taught how to deal with the outside world, and and they demonize sometimes the outside world. But that all comes from malfunction, a misunderstanding of the true purpose of what a chassid is, a misunderstanding of what the Torah is supposed to be in the world, a light into the nation, and people have to understand. People have bad experience with Hasidim should understand that that's not what Judaism necessarily is, or it's just you don't understand what they're doing. But very often when there's a bad experience, it comes from a misunderstanding or ignorance about where it comes from, and from the problem that exists within Hasidim today, like I explained.